Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. Before I begin, a quick question for you. I'll be doing a video soon, hopefully, on the LG C4 TV, and I was wondering what questions you all had about the TV that you would want to see me answer in the video. Now, don't worry, I'm not trying to become Vincent Tio or ratings.com or anything like that, but I do think that amazing reviewers like that focus on features that everybody wants to know about, and I'm going to focus on retro content, retro movies and TV, and of course, video games through scalers and stuff like that. So obviously lag, OSSE compatibility, the basics from what you'd expect from me, but I want to know if there's anything specifically that you all would want to know. Now, this is also the perfect time of year to buy TVs because the newer ones aren't quite out yet, and they're starting to put the older ones up on super sale, which is exactly how I was able to afford this. That one was an open box buy and on a discount, so I was able to get it, I think, half price of what the original sticker price was on that or something. So that's actually how I've gotten all of my main TVs, not the cheapo ones you throw in the bedroom, but I don't think I've ever actually went and bought a TV at full or normal prices. I've always had to get them like this, and I think it's the perfect time of year for it. So I'm going to try to get this video together in the next couple of weeks. Who knows what chaos will happen that might delay that. But if I do, or if I am able to do that, what else do you all want to know? And I'll try my best to get to it. I already kind of have an idea in mind for what the video is going to be about, and I hope it's not going to be too long, but how many times have I said that and you ended up with a half-hour long video? So anyway, enough of my rambling. Let's jump in and see what's been going on this week. First up, the Sinden light gun is now available at Stone Age Gamer in the US. The price is $130 for the standard edition and $180 for the version with recoil, which comes in to be a little bit less than if you were buying it from the main seller overseas, and also you would get it faster because of shipping. So if you're interested in one of these, I have links to everything right here. Just take a look at both stores and calculate shipping and see what is overall the cheapest for you. And depending on where you are in the world, either one might be cheaper, so just get whichever works best for you. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Sinden light gun, this is a USB-based gun that works with emulation by putting a white border around the screen, and that's what the gun uses to calculate where you're shooting. So it's very easy to set up, and also it works very well. I did a live stream with a creator a while back, and while I did also like other projects, I loved the gun for IR, that was a lot more complicated of a setup, whereas this is much more of a just, your setup on the MiSTer side of things is relatively easy compared to all the other options. And then once you use it, you just power it on and load the core with the light gun border on it. Now, you can use it somewhat on original consoles, I believe the PS2, but it's pretty complicated. And I think unless you're an expert, I would really just consider this one for emulation use only. And as far as the MiSTer goes, I believe a pull request was made to have the white border integrated as a toggle in the main settings, but that could be a lot more complicated than you'd think, because don't forget, when it comes to the MiSTer project, adding something that seems easy might mean that something else has to get changed or tweaked, and then you have to figure out if that affects other things. So at the moment, the way to run it is with the alternate cores that Andy has provided. But basically, check out the live stream and the other write-up I did on it. And also, if you were in the States and you wanted one of these, now's the time to pick it up because they're in stock and ready to go. Next up, Professor Abrasive just released a new menu for the Satiator optical drive emulator that has better handling of multi-disc games with subfolders. So basically, before this, if you wanted to use the official menu system, you would have to create a folder for a game with multiple discs and then place both of those disc files in that same folder. But now you're able to do it as game and then a subfolder of disk 1 and a subfolder of disk 2, which kind of is how I usually had things organized anyway, so that makes sense for people that already have their stuff made that way. And if you want to use this versus the alternate ones, I would definitely check out that video Tito did a couple weeks ago about the different optical drive emulators on Saturn, because he also showed off the alternate menu plus firmware that had a couple of other cool features as well. So choices are always great. If you own a Satiator, absolutely check out Dan's post, and then just kind of decide for yourself which menu you want to use. And I guess there's no wrong answer here. It's whichever one you think would be best for your setup. Next up is a really fun one. Jan from Consoles for You is now selling what he's calling the 5X Tower of Power, which is essentially a Sega CD1-esque device that you slide your RetroTINK 5X into that breaks out SCART as well as a VGA input onto the back and some audio inputs to go along with the VGA as well. Now, before I go any further, I will say that if you're just looking to get a D-sub connector into your RetroTINK 5X, something like the HD15 to SCART is going to be much cheaper and would probably be exactly what you're looking for. But this isn't what this is. This is not just a VGA to SCART adapter. This is supposed to be something for people who have the 5X, who want a couple more options and want something that looks awesome. I mean, if you're a retro gamer and you see this, you would immediately just go to Genesis 1, Sega CD 1. And if not, whatever, it's still a cool looking, stand/bracket thing for it. The only thing to note is there are two versions of the case of the RetroTINK 5X, a smooth and a textured one. There's a picture right here that you could click on that just shows you all of that zoomed in, and you just have to select which version you want of the adapter. So the one that fits either one of these. Not too big of a deal, but definitely something to note. The price is going to be about $100 including shipping, give or take. So once again, it's not for everybody, but it does have some cool features. Now, this is just breaking out the SCART adapter on the TINK 5X, so it could only accept RGB as well as composite video. And that alone might be worth buying it for people, because if you have your RGB stuff run in a way where you could send it over a D-sub connector, you could then use one of those cheap adapters to get composite video and audio into the SCART port. So that would mean that you could have component video plugged in and you wouldn't need to worry about sharing the green RCA jack, and then you could have composite video going into the SCART port and then RGB going through the other one, or you could just have all the signals as is. And a couple other things to note: the VGA input has a toggle for RGB-S and RGB-HV, so you could send a true VGA signal through it, or you could just send your RGB-S signal the same way you would through the SCART adapter through that. Also, you're able to have both connected at the same time, and while I very strongly recommend not powering on both at the same time, there should be protection in there to protect the TINK, and if one is on and one is off, then it's absolutely no issue whatsoever. And this does have a powered sync combiner in there, so that means you're going to require power for it. However, this kit comes with a Y adapter that allows you to use one power supply to power the TINK 5X and this. And because the sync combiner is such a low powered circuit, whatever power supply you're using now, if it's working with the TINK 5X, it'll work with both at the same time. You don't need to worry about that. So check out the post and check out the links if you'd like more info on this thing. I just think it's one of these cool adapters that if you already own a TINK 5X and this would make your life easier and you think it would look cool, definitely get it. Respectfully to everybody, I would not suggest getting this combo over like the TINK CE, because you could get a lot more for, a little bit more money than that. But I think the people who are going to buy this already know who they are. I don't think Jan's expecting to sell 1 million of these things, but I think the people who do buy it are going to appreciate it just as much as I do, and really just have fun upgrading their setup with something like this. Next up, Yahel from Wrestling with Gaming just posted a new documentary about the Sharkwire online service for the Nintendo 64, which was essentially a cartridge that you could plug into your console and then also plug into your phone line in order to connect to the internet and download Sharkwire specific content. And as with all of the Wrestling with Gaming documentaries, this one was great. It told a good story. He was even able to get some of the original team members to talk about what was going on inside the company at the time. And I think this was an interesting video. And I think if you watch it, you'll immediately kind of get why this was a failed service that, to be honest, I didn't even hear about until now. Or if I did, I just brushed it off as a kid or something like that. But I thought this was awesome. And if you're interested in either video game history or old internet history, or the N64, I mean, this checks a lot of boxes. So I think a lot of people would be interested in it. And if you want a similar documentary, my favorite of his is still the story of X-Band, because the people that he interviewed were just so likable and it was such a cool story. And I don't know, I liked both of these, but I think the X-Band one is still my favorite. But check these out if you're interested. Next up, you could now use your Memory Card Pro 2 and 2nd edition Memory Card Pro 1 as a controller adapter for both wired and wireless controllers on your PlayStation 1. Now, there's a whole lot to know about this, and it's not as as easy as it sounds. However, I just want to make the point, like I always do, that this is another completely free feature added to a memory card that was only ever advertised as a memory card. I did not think this was possible at all. So let's break down exactly what this is and what you could expect when if you want to try this free firmware update out. First of all, this is only going to work on PlayStation 1 consoles because of how the memory card slot and controller port shares a bus. I don't think it's ever going to be possible on a PlayStation 2, maybe, but I would not count on that at all. And also, there's not a lot of compatible controllers at the moment. It's still a brand new feature. So right now, 8-bit DOE controllers, I have them listed in the post here if you want. The 8-bit DOE Ultimate 2C and Xbox wireless controllers can connect wirelessly. There's no lag testing as of yet, but hopefully, I think someone's working on that. So we should hopefully get some data on that at some point. But that means if you're using the 8-bit DOE Ultimate 2C, you just sync it to the memory card and that's it. You can now play wirelessly on your PlayStation 1 with just the MCP2. You do not want to have a wired controller plugged in at the same time. So said differently, if your memory card's in port 1, make sure to not plug in a wired controller in port 1, but you could in port 2 if you want. There's also a way to use PlayStation controllers, the PS3, PlayStation DualShock 3, 4, and DualSense controllers, but wired. Now, there's a couple of things to note. First, the MCP2 does not have enough power to power the controller, so you're either going to need some kind of Y cable splitter or just use a powered USB hub so that you could power the controller from the hub and then just send data to the Memory Card Pro 2. So not exactly the most elegant solution, but once again, a free feature added on to a memory card. This is never meant to be a controller adapter. So that's pretty cool as well. I think this is one of those things that if you already own a Memory Card Pro 2 and a compatible controller and you want to use it on a PS1, try it. Just see what happens, see how you like it. It's a free feature. If you think it's a pain, if you don't like the current compatible controllers, wait and just, maybe they'll add support for more. I don't think support for wireless PlayStation controllers is going to happen because of the way the protocols work. Who knows? These are all people that are far smarter than me anyway, but I wouldn't count on that at the moment. So to recap, this is an absolutely awesome free feature that is attached to something that was never meant to do any of this, but it's not as easy and as universal as just getting a generic controller adapter. So give it a try if you already own one, see if you could save yourself some money. And if not, then whatever, it's all good. It's still an amazing memory card that could still launch games. And the other quick thing to note is it's the same compatibility as launching games. If you have the first edition MemCard Pro 1, you could still do the trade-in thing. I believe they're still doing that. If you'd like to upgrade to the MemCard Pro 2, but if you have the version 2 MemCard Pro 1, this will also work. So check this thing out. Links to everything are in the post. And yeah, this is very cool. Last week, we talked about the Sonic Unleashed PC port that uses a new set of tools that helps you decompile the executable from Xbox 360 and then recompile it into a game if you're an expert who knows how to do those things. And my take on that was more of a general arm's length view of just kind of going over the basic principles and what to expect from it. But Chris Fratz wanted to do a write-up that actually dug into it. And it was pretty interesting to read because you get to see, not only do you see some comparisons of the original versus the enhanced, but you get some more things that people who are into Sonic games, especially if you use tools like the Hedge Mod Manager to actually mod these things on your PC. I think this is a better inside look for people that really want to dig into this and just kind of want to hear somebody's thoughts who's already gone through it and done the setup and stuff like that. So, if this is something that interests you, but you just haven't gotten around to doing it yet, absolutely give this post a read and just see if it could point you in the right direction. And if not, at least there's more people working on this stuff, and maybe we'll see more ports of cool games. And I'm still doubling down and saying that I would love to see a Daytona port to the PC that I could run at higher resolutions and refresh rates. And yeah, I know the emulator can do that, but this is pretty cool too. So ever since the RetroTINK 4K was released, I have been ranting about how awesome it is to use it to watch older TV shows and movies on PC CRT monitors. And I finally got around to doing a video on that, but I wanted the video to be a little bit more. So it also sort of explains quickly what 24p/24 hertz, which is interchangeable in this context, is, what 3.2 pull down is, and how you're going to use your PC CRT monitor or modern display to get around that. And yes, I'm very clear in the video that most modern TVs and even projectors and stuff have ways to have proper cadence of 24p material, but not all. And this really was made for us CRT nerds and also for people that are interested in integrating BFI, because while that's going to be 2 or 3 videos from now, I still have a lot of work to do on that one. When you eventually watch that video, you're going to need to watch this one first, because I'm not going to rehash what's 24p, what's proper cadence. And while I'll show the different mode lines, I'm not going to go into the detail of mode line creation that I do in this. So give this one a watch if you have a RetroTINK 4K, either the CE or the Pro, and you're interested in doing this stuff. Even if it's not something you plan on doing now, it most likely will be something you'll at least want to think about, I guess, is the best. Or if you don't own the Tinks at all, maybe you're just a fellow nerd like me and enjoy this stuff. But basically, at the moment, if you don't have a PC CRT monitor and you don't have a TV or any display that can handle 120 hertz, it doesn't quite apply to you yet, but any PC CRT monitor will work with this, to the point that I would confidently say, if you already own a TINK 4K and you like old TV shows, especially old 4:3 TV shows, you have to watch this video, because you very well might end up, what the heck is wrong with me today? You very well might end up picking up a cheap or free PC CRT monitor, because what I show here will work on basically anything from the 90s up. So please give this a watch. Let me know what you think. But this is both a fun video for CRT nerds, but also a primer for the upcoming BFI one, where it's a couple months away probably, but we're going to just jump directly into what a huge difference that could make depending on your content. But this is what you need to know to get yourself prepped for that anyway. So I'm sure most people listening, or at least a giant chunk, probably already know, but hopefully I made this one fun. Let me know what you think. And speaking of the RetroTINK 4K, the new CE is now available to purchase for the previously advertised price of $475, and it should still be in stock by the time you hear this. I believe Mike made quite a few to make sure that there was enough to go around. And if they do show in stock, just note that a lot sold over the weekend. So this is not a pre-order. You're not putting your money down hoping that this product will eventually exist. They are in stock, ready to go, but because of how many sold, it might take a week or so for yours to ship. So this is not a pre-order. The only ones up for sale are the ones that are in the warehouse ready to go, but just be a little bit patient, because quite a few orders came through on this one. Now, if you'd like to know how this one differs from the 4K Pro, I did a video on that a while back that kind of introduces this product and gives you an idea of what to expect. But basically, not everyone's going to need the Pro, but some people are really going to want those extra features, and it's something that they might just decide that is much more worth it to them than saving some money. It's totally up to you, though. It really depends on what you're using this for, the types of games, the generation of your consoles. Do you watch movies and stuff on this as well? Do you like BFI? Do you have a display that's able to do that stuff? So there's really no perfect answer. It's going to be what's best for your setup. So I encourage you to watch that video just to kind of give a new primer of what to expect for this thing. But it's awesome. I'm glad to see that this thing is ready to go, and I think it opens up all of the awesome features of the TINK 4K to a lot more people. And just one last thing, I know I went over this in the intro video, but I want to reiterate one more time that this literally uses the same firmware file as the Pro. It's basically the same device, just with a smaller and cheaper FPGA inside. So you're getting the same stable, mature firmware that has been running for 2 years plus now publicly on the TINK 4K Pro. So this is not some new beta product. This is a solid product that just doesn't have all of the features of the Pro. And one other thing to reiterate, if whatever feature is written for the Pro can run on the CE, it will. There is zero software locking here. The only limitations are hardware, which then translates to a cheaper price to you. But all of the stuff that Mike's been working on for the Pro, if it will work on the CE, it's going to be ported. And if it can't, then it can't. That's not something that's going to work. But I just wanted to double down on those 2 points, because there were a couple of people that I saw in the comments that didn't quite understand that. And I don't know if I just did a bad job explaining it in the intro video, but I think those are 2 very important things that mean a lot to a lot of people, especially people that rely on their processors and just want to make sure they're using something stable that's not going to glitch out or anything. But if you want more details, please check out that video, and links to everything you need are right here in the post. Next up, My Life in Gaming recently posted an awesome video about Arthremis's Scalable Video Switch, or SVS. And this is everything that I wanted from a deep dive video on this switch. They go into the different modules and what order they should be placed in, depending on what signal type you're sending them and what resolution. And they go into all of the different features and make a couple of different points. Honestly, if you are even considering buying one of these, or if you were just curious about it, this is definitely something that you're going to want to watch. I do want to reiterate a few points that they made very nicely in the video. I just want to make sure most people who are interested in this hear this multiple times. First, if you already have a working setup, you don't need this, probably. And I don't mean that with any shade to Arthremis. I'm just saying there's a lot of really good switches out there. And if you already have stuff that's working for you, I'd still suggest watching the video just to learn about something awesome and new, but I wouldn't go into this thinking that you're going to have to get rid of all of your stuff. Good example is, at the moment, I have one CRT with only 15 kilohertz stuff connected through a G-SCART switch, and I have another multi-format CRT for things that could do both 15 and 31 kilohertz, and that's all going through a G-Comp. And at the moment, there's zero reason for me to switch that scenario. It does everything that I would need. However, if I ever end up putting all of the consoles on the rack behind me, this is without a doubt what I would want to use. And while the Extron Crosspoint setup I had was good, and I did like the matrix functionality, which this will not be able to support, I don't really need matrix switching. I just would need multiple outputs to different displays. So that's definitely what I would use. I mean, this is without a doubt the perfect solution for me should I move everything back to the racks. And I wanted to share that just because, there's different scenarios for everybody. Also, unless you already know that you need these features, turn the low pass filter and sync on green switches off. They go into detail about that, but really 99% of people using this aren't going to need them. I'm very glad they're there, because the people that do need them will make sure to enable them for their scenario, but this is not a common thing that most people would need. So just follow what they say and leave those off and save yourself some headaches. Overall, I love this thing. I think it's great. I really appreciate My Life in Gaming also doing a written post on here that has their screenshots, because sometimes the only way we could watch content is on the go, on our phones, or, you're half asleep in bed watching it on your crappy TV, which I'm guilty of sometimes. So if you really want to see some of these comparison shots, it's often better to do it in still picture form. So it's really awesome that My Life in Gaming would still post on RetroRGB about this stuff. But it shows all the examples here and basically a written summary. So if you're really into this, do both. Read the post and watch the video, and that way you could have all the knowledge you need before these go back on sale, I think next month. So we'll obviously keep everybody updated as soon as they go back on sale, but I'm very excited for this one. It's not going to be for everybody. There's other cheaper and, depending on your setup, potentially better solutions out there, but this is, going right up to the top of my list of choices, and I think many of you will agree as well. Greg from Laser Bear just started selling a $30 adapter he's calling the CEC Enabler, which will allow you to control your Mister via your TV's remote, assuming that your TV is compatible with CEC control. And essentially, probably the number one scenario for using this is if you're going to use snack controllers or light guns or whatever, and you want to be able to still get into the Mister's menus, then this is a very, very easy way to do it. You won't need an extra keyboard or controller or whatever else plugged in. So I think this is very, very cool for people who have that scenario. This comes with the little dongle that you connect that you plug directly into your Mister, and it also comes with a little HDMI extender, should that be easier for whatever your setup or case is. And this is really just one of those products that If you already understand what the problem is, you've probably already run to LaserBear and bought it. It's retrorgb.link/CEC Enabler if you're on your, if you're listening audio only and you just want to jump on your phone or something. But basically, if you don't need this, then you don't need it, and that's totally fine. But I think people who are listening right now, the light bulb's going off of either like, wow, this is perfect for my setup, or neat, but not for me. Both of those are perfectly reasonable. So please check out the post for more info. I asked Greg to put this together just to make sure you have the info directly from the source. And they should still be in stock. And I think stuff like this is really awesome because it solves very specific problems that many of us have. And if you have a TV that you could easily control stuff with your remote, I mean, this is just the perfect solution. Now it's time for this week's Mr. Updates, care of Lou from Lou's Retro Source. As usual, I'm just going to scroll through and give my thoughts where I feel like it, but if you'd like more details and visual examples, please check out Lou's video and also scroll through the post right here on RetroRGB.com if you'd like to do that as well. First up, if you're planning on buying a Mr. Multi-System or have an interest in changing your current setup, the Multi-System team just posted a setup guide and video showing how to assemble the bundle that's currently available on their shop. Next, Neil from the Cave posted a prototype of the Mr. Multi-System 2 inside the 3D printed case they've designed. And that's not out yet, but that's the one they're working on that has everything built in. The FPGA, the Mr. I/O board, all of those features all in one. So that's going to be interesting to see how that compares with the other solutions similar to that are going to be coming out. Next, Anton Gale started work on an Exidy 440 FPGA core, and there is already a core out there for it, but I believe that's closed source, and this one's going to be open source, so that's pretty cool. Next, Hotego added a new game to the JTFL story. It's the Japanese arcade baseball game Victorious 9, and Hotego also updated many older cores with a bunch of different fixes, which Lou goes over in the post and in the video if you'd like more info on it. Also, Robert Pipe, aka FPGA Azum Spaß. Did I say that even remotely right? I apologize, my German friends. I give it a try, my best try. But Robert is the developer of many cores, including the Game Boy Advance core, which he's now going back and rebuilding to make it cycle accurate. And this is not at all making the existing core obsolete. And in fact, there are things in this core that are going to be so hardware intensive that it's going to have to drop certain features that the original core has. Most certainly the 2-player mode, but probably some other stuff as well. So this is just exciting because the more accurate emulation we get, the better preservation it is, the better it is to play the games. And even if there are minuscule differences that even a human eyes can't notice, it's still awesome to have these things recreated in FPGA as accurate as they are. So thanks to Robert for coming back and working on this stuff, and I just always really appreciate it. Next up, Martin Donlin, aka Wickerwaka, added cheat support to arcade games. Martin's actually been working on a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, so thank you, Martin. But it's pretty cool that this functionality is built in. Lou shows some examples of when that might be kind of usable in a better way than just pumping in extra virtual quarters. And one of them that I think Lou brought up was that certain shoot 'em up games, there are cheats that when you die, you don't lose all your power-ups. Or stuff that if you're really learning a game, you might appreciate. So thanks to Martin for doing that. Next, core developer Macro updated the arcade game Cosmo and added the star field. This is a game that runs on the Space Invaders hardware. And Zaploader by Bedroom Ninja is now available for purchase, which is an NFC reader that allows you to use physical cartridges to launch games in your Mister. The cartridges have to have NFC tags attached to them for this to work. So this is a tactile thing. This is something where you want to see and feel your cartridge. You want to place it in something, but you're not actually running the game off the cartridge. It's still just like the Zapparoo stuff, which is awesome. I just want to be clear about that. So, also, Hotego released a new arcade core, which is a light gun game called NY Captor. And in this game, you're a marksman who has to rescue hostages from terrorists. So I'm obviously a fan of light gun games. I think the good ones are a ton of fun to play and just gives you a completely different experience than shooting with a mouse or a controller. So hey, hopefully when more of these get added, maybe this is a bit more of a push to get the Sinden border globally so that we could just use something like that. Also, Mr. Organized is bringing another big update on probably that already happened this week, and that's the thing that I talked about, I believe, in the last Lose update that allows you to download and sort ROMs. And once again, I'm still really hoping for a RetroNAS implementation of this. Just I can't really talk today, huh? It'd be funny if I got the German word right, but still didn't get the English word. Anyway, next up, the STV portions of the Saturn core are being moved to a different STV core. It's currently in progress, but the purpose of that is the Sega Saturn and the STV are essentially the same thing, but the STV arcade board has slightly different features and interfaces than the Saturn stuff would, and the games rely on different things as well. So keeping the cores separate would just make it easier to make sure that all of these things could fit into the cores and work properly on Mister. So I mean this with love. I don't really care how it's done. If they're separated in 2 cores, if they're in the single core, whatever's easiest for the developer that works right is the right answer. I don't think anybody in their right mind would complain about having to load a second core if you want to get into the arcade stuff, but it's definitely awesome that so many more people could try out the STV arcade stuff. You still have the Saturn games to play as well, but it's just neat, and it's something that I'm glad is available. Also, user Waj on the Mister forum has added a lot of improvements to the Atari 800 core. So if you are a user of that one, check out the stuff that Lou posted. Core developer Jason A. released an unstable core for the Exidy Sorcerer computer, which is a home computer released in 1978. I love old stuff like that. It's always so fun to see. Jason A. also released another core for the RCA Studio 2 console, which was released in 1977, and it was a game that resembled those early Pong consoles. There's also another computer core by Jason A. for the Laser 350, 500, or 700 line of computers. It's powered by a Z80A. And lastly, Jason also released a core for the LM80C computer, which is a modern homebrew computer by Leonardo Milanani that runs on Milanani. I really can't talk today. I'm sorry. I swear I'm sober. I promise you. I don't get drunk in the middle of the day and record these. Barely even drink anymore, but my apologies for messing all these up. But anyway, thanks to Jason A. for all of these. And of course, thanks to Lou for keeping up with all of this stuff, because I could never do it all without him. So if you rely on these updates as much as I do, please consider supporting Lou on Patreon, because I'm very happy to, so I can get all of this info all in one spot. Well, that's it for this week. I just wanted to thank everybody who offered up to sell their NESs for this upcoming project. I think we found the perfect one, but if not, I'll still reach back out to other people. I just thought it was very nice that a lot of people stepped up and tried to help for a fun video that's coming up. So thank you all. Also, thanks as usual to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thank you to anybody who supports in absolutely any way, because it really is you who's keeping all this stuff alive. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.